Welcome to Week in One, the show that helps you catch up with the news you may have missed in the week. We bring you a quick roundup of the top stories and interviews featured on eNCA over the last 7 days. I'm Shiritika Pillay. Let's take a look at the week's top stories. South Africans respond to the implementation of Stage 6 blackouts. A community in shock following the death of over 15 churchgoers swept away during flash floods in Johannesburg. President Cyril Ramaphosa takes the Section 89 panel report on Phala Phala for judicial review.
It's a crime
for reservation
on the basis of race.
A new viral incident of racism, this time in Cape Town. Experts warn that Stage 8 blackouts could be on the cards for South Africa. This week, Eskom escalated power cuts from Stages 3 and 4 to Stage 6 within a matter of hours. It says it needs to shed roughly 6,000 megawatts to prevent a complete collapse of the power grid.
Eskom has been described as the single biggest threat to the South African economy. In the recent GDP figures released this week, the manufacturing and construction sector grew by just over 1%. There will be no improvement on that figure if the country stays on Stage 6 rolling blackouts. Steel manufacturer Max Steel has had to spend millions keeping their generators running.
But essentially that disruption creates chaos in our processes and in our ability to deliver to customers. It creates an environment where we are moving less material out of the gate. Less material out the gate is less revenue in the month, and it impacts our ability to break even or even make a profit. And therefore GDP gets impacted. The country is impacted severely. I'm stating the obvious, but you can see what it means to a business like this. We are putting many thousands of tons of material through a production line, and when it gets disrupted, things happen, damage occurs.
Only 77 of the 240 hospitals have been exempted from rolling blackouts. The Department of Health will soon be knocking on National Treasury's door to ask for more money for its depleted diesel budget.
We need to also get commitment from local authorities, because some of those are supplied by local authorities, in where we must be able to secure the lines for supply of electricity to our hospitals.
Rolling blackouts continues to have a devastating effect on all sectors of South African life. And it's not going to get better anytime soon, with energy analysts predicting a prolonged period of power cuts. Heidi Jakas in Kempton Park.
Families of the Sewage drowning victims are trying to make sense of the tragedy. Church members were swept away by flash floods during a baptism ceremony last weekend. As rescue workers recovered the 15th body, some frustrated families are laying blame squarely at the bishop's door. They accuse him of ignoring warnings of the imminent danger. eNCA's Mangoba Mtunu filed this report.
It's been a daunting few days for families who are still searching for their loved ones. Among them, the Khenge family that lost 3 of their family members. Zikhona Khenge was among the congregants attending the baptism ceremony on Saturday when tragedy struck.
Ngasindiswa ukuthi bengisikwa ngabona isihlahla bema ngikhipha ikhanda emanzini, so ngabambezela kuleso sihlahla leso ngabambelela, and then ngakhuphuka ngaso ngaphumela ngaphandle, and then base ngiphumela ngaphandle ngami, and then ukuthi ngiwalke from lapho ngikhuphuke because kune freeway lapho ngahamba ngalo freeway leyo, then ngathola one of ama lifesavers.
The 24-year-old lost her mother, a 3-year-old son, and a 3-month-old baby. Her baby has still not been found.
Kunzima ukulala, kunzima ukudla, ayikho into engini just ngifocus ukuthi ngimthole.
But the Khenge family has pointed fingers at the church, saying the bishop is squarely to blame.
Unogogo wasibeka isixwayiso washo ukuthi mangungangena emanzini kuzoshoniwa, but umfundisi zangamamela wangena. Mayethi sorry befuna ungitshela ukuthi umama makasekho, abantwana bama basekho na, because ngisazibuza ukuthi usori lo yabeka mina ukuthini.
Meanwhile, another family that lost 2 of its family members is also demanding answers.
Kubhlungu kakhulu, besingalindelanga ukuthi izinto ezinganje zingenzeka, because umama bekuyonke into yethu. Kakhulukazi ke umntwana naye besabheke kukhulu kakhulu kuphuma kuyena.
This is search and recovery operations to try and find 3-month-old Sinenhlanhla also continue. Manqoba Mchudu, Alexandra.
The president isn't off the hook just yet. The ANC's Integrity Commission has released its report on the Phala Phala scandal. Meanwhile, political analysts say the president's move to take the Section 89 report on judicial review may just restore his reputation, which has come under scrutiny over the last couple of days. Our reporter Pule Lichwiti Jones has more.
President Cyril Ramaphosa is fighting tooth and nail to retain his position as the state's #1. He's now taken the Section 89 panel report on Phala Phala for judicial review. In his review application, the president argues that there are various issues the Constitutional Court should consider when looking into the Phala Phala report. One legal analyst says the president may be right to say due diligence wasn't performed by the panel, but challenging the admissibility of the evidence may be tricky.
Obviously, they have to first listen to say, listen here, is this evidence admissible to be actually used? But that will only come out when it's trial, and it's the criminal trial. So people should not confuse this, because the application here, the president cannot now come and say the evidence was inadmissible. Yeah. He just needs to say the report was not done properly, due diligence was not performed. That's what he's doing in the application. But if the National Director of Public Prosecution decides to actually criminally charge him, now there's going to be a case, and then he can now test the authenticity, the genuineness of evidence that is brought before court.
But it seems all isn't over, as the president must wait for the Integrity Committee's findings.
The outcomes, like you said, of the Integrity Committee will be also very important. Also, given that the infamous step aside rule will be discussed going into the conference, and whether or not that will be adopted as a resolution of the party. And I think the test of the committee will be very important to say what are the measures and the tests that they will use to be able to adjudicate this matter and to determine whether or not the current president of the party is still fit to lead the party.
The ANC, on the other hand, does not appear to be worried about the Integrity Committee's report and says it will deal with the issues as they arise.
It means we must remove ourselves from power. That's what we are saying. You are saying we must impinge ourselves. You are saying ANC, Section 89 is didn't change. That's what we are saying. So I'm just saying there is no political. If we make it so easy to imagine if we made it so easy for the president to be removed from positions of responsibility, what will happen? You just make it so easy, so easy.
The party appears to be in for a hectic week. On Wednesday, the ANC Veterans League is expected to discuss its position on the Phala Phala matter. Pule Lichwiti Jones in Johannesburg.
Racially charged incidents are all too common in South Africa. This time, the owners of Hank's Old Irish Pub in Cape Town have been accused of racism. Last Thursday, a patron, Tembisa, was allegedly told by a bouncer at the pub that he wouldn't be allowed inside unless accompanied by a white person. The next day, Danka's close friend, Christopher Logan's confrontation with the owner was caught on camera. eNCA's senior reporter, Aviwe Mtila, brings us the latest on the incident.
It's a crime.
For reservation.
On the basis of race. Do you? Do you? Yes or no?
This is the viral video of Christopher Logan standing up for his close friend Tembisa. An irate Logan exposed this pub that allegedly requires black visitors to be accompanied by a white person in order to gain access. Moments after the confrontation, Logan says they were assaulted by the owner and the bouncers.
The second owner arrived, who was far more aggressive and dismissive, and essentially told us to get out. He wasn't interested in dealing with this, and then proceeded to try to forcefully remove us from the premises with the help of his bouncers, and that obviously led to a confrontation. We said we're not going, we're calling the police, and then they physically assaulted us. We've laid charges with the police, but I really don't want the assault matter to overshadow what's most important here, and that's to do with racism that Tembisa faced, racism at Hanks, and racism as a broader issue within this country.
The pub has since shut its doors indefinitely after the incident and denied the racism allegations. The owners have also laid assault charges against Logan.
The response by denying everything, by trying to go on the counter-attack, is just an attempt to try to divert from what's actually going on here. When this whole thing started, their first response is we reserve the right of admission, which basically means that they think they have the right to do this sort of thing. So honestly, I think the approach that they're taking from beginning to now has been totally incorrect. And the fact that this has gotten to this height, they're clearly not reckoning with the magnitude of it. From our side, we've laid charges. We're going to the Human Rights Commission.
Logan says renowned legal mind advocate Tembisa Toby has offered his services to take on Hank's Old Irish Pub and its alleged racism. Aviwem Tila, Cape Town.
Coming up after the break, we showcase some of the big interviews our anchors did this week with key newsmakers and experts. All roads lead to Nasrec as the ANC puts the final touches on its national elective conference. Our anchor Dan Moyane spoke to ANC NEC member Dr. Gwen Ramaphosa to get a sense of what the current political climate is within the party.
You had a very busy weekend because of the Phala Farm report, extremely busy weekend. What was the mood like inside the room?
As you can imagine, very concerned because the ANC has made a proposal to society that it's time for unity, it's time for renewal, it's time to ensure integrity, honesty, and we've been also waiting for the outcome of various plethora of investigations around Phala. So when the report came out, it was really a moment of trepidation as well. However, we had to listen to what people say, South Africans in general, experts, jurists, some of the jurists, the Judge Murphys, the Posas of the day, the
legal minds
of the day, including also our one and only Thuli Madonsela and many others who read, analyzed, and guided society. So it was, but we remain confident that the cause for zero tolerance to, lawlessness, zero tolerance to corruption, and also holding accountable everyone amongst us, regardless of the positions they hold. We remain very encouraged that there is a firm commitment to that. But the message that's coming out is that let the processes be fair and let the processes be rigorous as well.
Lack of money for diesel and maintenance at Koeberg's power station are said to be amongst some of the causes for the country being subjected to stage 6 blackouts. eNCA's Gareth Edwards spoke to energy analyst Lungile Mashele.
It always seems every time I speak to either yourself, Lungile, or other energy experts, all of you as energy analysts and experts seem to know this is going to come, yet there's nothing we can do about it. Am I just being too negative?
You're absolutely right. One can track by the data that Eskom does provide where we're actually headed. Every single day, they do provide what their utilization is in terms of the hydro pumped storage as well as gas. So you're basically able to track what is going to happen by the end of the week. Unfortunately, there's nothing anybody can say, and to send out warnings is neither here nor there, because this has been our reality for the last 15 or so years.
Let's talk about the big worry at the moment, this concern, this talk, this expectation. Tell me how realistic this is, Lungile, that we could go from stage 6 and somehow magically miss stage 7 and end up in stage 8. Stage 8 sounds like something from our nightmares. What is that? How bad a situation would that be for us?
So it is very realistic. That is a possibility. And in fact, this is why they had to implement stage 6 as of midday yesterday, because had they not done that, had they not preserved the diesel pump storage, if anything had happened during the evening peak, it would have likely most tipped us over to stage 7 or stage 8. What does this mean? Currently at stage 6, we're load shedding at anything between 10 to 12 hours a day. We will not have electricity. So anticipate that at stage 8, for about 12 to 14 hours a day, you will not have electricity. Now, I hate making this comparison, but if you look at what is happening in Zimbabwe currently, where they're off for 18, 19 hours a day, but theirs is continuous, it is not on a rotational basis. And the fact that I even need to find myself making this comparison is truly a testament to how bad things have gotten, not just at the utility, but in the country as a whole.
With the festive season in full swing, holidaymakers are still cautious about the water quality of Durban's beaches. Last week, the eThekwini municipality reopened some beaches that had been closed due to high E. coli levels. eNCA anchor Masego Rahlaha spoke to environmental justice activist Dr. Ferial Adam.
Do you think that it was a good idea for the city's government to open all the beaches, even with this problem still persisting?
Not at all. I think that that was an indication of government that's putting profits before people. I think the water is not safe, and they need to have consistent testing to make sure that it is going to be safe. And I don't think it's going to be safe anytime soon.
And of course, we all remember what happened back in April when those floods that took away hundreds of lives and displaced so many people. And of course, that's when we saw that the infrastructure development and maintenance in Durban was not up to par. And a lot of people have been saying that this is what caused what we're seeing today.
What happened in April exacerbated the situation, but what it did bring to the fore was that government has not spent enough, and the KZN government has not spent enough on infrastructure and not done enough repairs and maintenance on pipes and water treatment plants. So April definitely highlighted that, and they need to take accountability for that. We know that there's an infrastructure fund that has not been adequately used. We know even now, after April, so let's say, okay, April's happened, it's exacerbated the situation, but what has the KZN government done since then? There's a 1.5 billion rand that's been allocated as a disaster management fund. We need to know how that money is going to be spent, on what projects it's going to be spent. And sadly, I don't think that there's a quick fix right now for the water resources and sanitation issues in KZN. It's not going to be overnight.
Stay tuned to Week in One. Coming up, Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi promises to release the findings of an SIU report into the extent of the rot at Tembisa Hospital. Welcome back to Week in One. I'm Shrutika Pillay. The wheels of justice could finally be turning, and those implicated in corruption and fraud at Tembisa Hospital may soon face the music. Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi is in possession of a preliminary SIU report detailing the extent of corruption at the hospital and promises it will be made public. Whistleblower Babita Diokaran lost her life trying to expose the rot at the hospital. eNCA's Heidi Jokos has more.
Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi is armed with a preliminary SIU report he promises will reveal the corruption at Tembisa Hospital. By next week, South Africans might know the depth and extent of the malfeasance that took place at the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic. And Lesufi says it's not looking good for 4 business owners.
As a preliminary report, what I've received, because when I came into office, I was under extreme pressure from society, that there's a whistleblower here who played a key role in unveiling corrupt activities. You can't just keep quiet. But we didn't want just to react emotionally without proper evidence. Now that I have evidence, there are 4 huge business people that have milked this hospital on the basis of the report that I have. But it's a preliminary report, so I don't know the end product will be the same. But on the basis of the preliminary report, the evidence is damning.
The state of public health institutions remains a thorny issue for South Africans. The latest promise is that plans are in place to sort out the mess at most hospitals in the province. A report on the Anglo-Gold Ashanti Hospital that turned into a white elephant will also be released soon, costing 500 million rand. The facility has never been occupied.
At Anglo-Gold Ashanti, we've walked away as a province. We're no longer going to utilize that hospital because of the condition where it is the Zamazamas. Premier went there last month with MEC for social development to see the conditions there. Clearly, that's not a good place for us to send our patients at Anglo Gold Ashanti.
The Gauteng Health Department has also made commitments to refurbish the dilapidated and deserted Kempton Park Hospital. Heidi Jakos in Tembisa.
High stages of power cuts could soon become a reality. On Thursday, Energy Minister Gwede Mantashe hosted a signing ceremony with 13 preferred bidders from Bid Window 5 of the Renewable Energy Independent Power Producer Procurement Program. Once completed, these projects are expected to add 975 megawatts to the national grid. eNCA's Pulele Chwiti-Jones compiled this report.
Energy Minister Gwede Mantashe has slammed Eskom over its failures to resolve South Africa's electricity crisis. He adds communities have grown extremely frustrated as worsening waves of blackouts are rolled out. He also warns this growing anger could ignite a coup to topple their current administration. Worrying words considering the consequences of last year's unrest that tore through KwaZulu-Natal and parts of Gauteng.
So Eskom, by not attending to load shedding, is actively agitating for the overthrow of the state.
But Eskom is undeterred. The power utility says it remains hopeful that things will get better, especially with the added capacity from government's independent power producer procurement program.
Investment in this bid window 6, it's estimated at 12.1 billion rand. South African ownership 49%, local content committed 46%. Total jobs to be created, 4,934 job years over the term of the PPA. South African citizens, jobs to be created out of that 4,900 job years is 4,500 job years.
The successful bidders for the next window are expected to be announced soon. Pule Lichwiti-Jones, Centurion, and Tshwane.
Durban's sewage problems, exposed by the April floods, are not going away. More residents are now reporting broken infrastructure across the metro and accuse the city of failing to act. The community of Athlone Park in Isipingo has slammed the municipality for delays in fixing their sewage pump station. eNCA's Letiwe Mdluli reports.
The eThekwini municipality has been confronted with multiple sewage leaks on all fronts since the April floods, and the situation is not getting any better. A few months ago, these leaks forced the municipality to close several beaches because most of the waste ended up in the ocean. Here in Isipingo, frustrated residents say a sewage pump station near the beach has not been operating for months. The sewage spills into the nearby golf course and the lagoon, eventually ending up in the sea.
Every time that we complain, they come and they might suck up the sewer over here, but that's temporary reliefs. There's no, at the moment, there's no definite solution here. That we live from day to day. We don't know whether the car park is going to flood again tomorrow or whatever.
The residents say the municipality has not been much help, forcing them to take matters into their own hands and install their own septic tank.
We then decided to put in a septic tank, and we then started digging this hole over here to put a septic tank in so that we are completely offline from the municipality. This is not the first time that has happened. Previously, the pump backed up. That was about 2 years ago, and so it is not a problem that only occurred now. It was a previous problem as well.
Mayor of eThekwini Mxolisi Kawunda insists they are hard at work with repairs. He's hit out at opposition parties who are calling for him to step down because he's failing his residents.
The same political parties, they did not raise any issue with us responding to people of Tongat resuscitating our water treatment plant. They never said anything. They will never say anything about any progress that the city is making. But we are not going to be derailed by them. We are focused, we know our plans, and we are responding. We are working tirelessly to fix all the infrastructure that was damaged.
Opposition parties deny politicizing the issue.
The will of the municipality seems to be not there. The capacity seems to be lacking. So by him making those comments, it's beyond me. I mean, if he's opened the beaches recently, and if this is what we're seeing, this is not grandstanding. This is facts on the floor, facts on the ground.
The parties say they will not stop their calls for the mayor to go as long as the problems persist. Lethiwe Mdluli, Ispingo, Durban.
And that's a wrap for this week's edition of Week in One. From myself and the team, have a safe weekend.